Deadline day. What happened on deadline day? We have approached the end of that 2023 January transfer window, and sure, it has been another month filled with drama. Yes, we saw a lot of drama before the close of the window. The January transfer window has again seen big names import into the Premier League, and in the final hours of the window, we saw a flurry of deals take place. Chelsea spent so big once again as the British record $130 million deal for Enzo Fernandez, while Liverpool signed Cody Gakpo and Arsenal added Trossard, Jorginho too, and not forgetting Jakub Kiwior to strengthen that title hopes for them. Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, they made additions to deepen their squad top four push late into the window too, and there were plenty of late deals for the clubs in the relegation battle. But right now, we've got a Nigerian sports journalist joining us all the way from Port Harcourt, Nigeria. Favour Itua. Thank you so much, Favour, for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Favour. I'm very sure that you're one Arsenal fan who is so proud right now after the signings you made.
Well, it's been a busy transfer window, especially for Chelsea. But for Arsenal, I think for Arteta, it's just about fortifying and also bringing backups to the main starters. For instance, Thomas Partey, who is injury prone. We got Jorginho into the team, not also forgetting Leandro Trossard. You know, one thing that is certain about what Arsenal has had so far is the fact that some players may tire or may wear out the next few weeks. Talking about Martinelli on the flanks, even Bukayo Saka, who has been playing almost all the games
and
for Arsenal.
But then, and any injury too, and any injury was just the biggest one for us.
Yeah, the big one for Arsenal. And then yes, it's not a starter, but one man who has got experience, who has also been able to step in whenever the starter, for instance, Thomas Partey is injured. And I think for Arteta, he has probably learned from, you know, while he was playing at Arsenal, the days where Arsene Wenger was a coach of the side, whereby, you know, he refused to make signings during the January transfer window. And that has not been the case for Arteta, who also knows the importance of having a backup whenever things like this are happening. I know he's chasing the league, not also forgetting Europa League. Arsenal is also part of the Europa League. But the good news for Arsenal fans is the fact that they are not in the FA Cup. Yes, it's not good, but still a good news, a blessing in disguise. They know they will just focus their attention on the league and, you know, maybe the Europa League. So it's all for grabs for Arsenal, at the moment.
Okay, let's keep our focus now on African players. So a number of African players, they made moves during this transfer window. The likes of Bournemouth got the Burkina Faso winger, Dango Ouattara, and also Nigeria's Terem Murphy joined up with Ligue 1 club Nice on loan with an obligation to maybe keep him at £26.5 million. Let's not forget, we also heard the news of Paul Onuachu and Ghana's Kamaruddin Selemana, who joined up with Southampton before the deadline day. But the biggest news was some Nigerian Premier League player, that's Ebenezer Akinsomiro, who signed with Inter Milan from Remo Stars. Great one. Meanwhile, for the North African brothers, we saw Sofiane Boufal returning back to Qatar to join up with Al Rayyan from Angers, and his compatriot Hakim Ziyech did not get it so good from Chelsea because he wanted to join up with Paris Saint-Germain before the close of the window, but it fell through. What do you make of these moves by African players in the January transfer window?
I think 2022, late 2022 and the beginning of 2023 has been a blessing for African players. The right of the World Cup, the Moroccan players, even Sofiane Amrabat was in the news. We also saw some interesting players, and also, you know, in different parts of Europe. Terem Murphy has been firing on all cylinders, and it was not just a transfer target for the French Ligue 1 clubs, also for the Premier League club. And at the end of the day, it was OGC Nice who took him on loan with a mandatory option to buy, the mandatory clause to buy him at the end of the season. I think for him, he knows the terrain. He's just moving from one ship to another ship, but then in the same environment. So it's not going to be difficult for him to blend. For Paul Onuachu, it's been long Nigerians have been clamoring for him to make that big move. But the million-dollar question now on everybody's lips is Southampton are relegated by threatened side, and the chances of them escaping, it's not one who want to gamble. I mean, look at what happened at Watford last season, where a lot of Nigerians went to Watford. At the end of the day, they are in the championship. But then, for his personality, for his name, I think he should test the Premier League. And who knows, he could just get a bigger club at the end of the season. So it's still a nice one for Paul Onuachu, who has played his at the Belgian league, and of course what he has done. Then for the North African player who made a move, I mean, fantastic. Trust me, one thing I must tell you is the Europeans, they know the importance of African players. And I think they're really trying to tell themselves that we've got quality in the African league, in the African continent. I think it's the right time we show this to the world. And that has really ensured that clubs come for these African players. Look how Osimhen banging goals in Napoli, and who knows, it could just be a primary transfer target for top clubs at the end of the summer. So I think for the Nigerian transfer window, it's been nice for the African players abroad.
Okay, Favour, let's fix our focus right now on Chelsea. They became the only club who had the biggest spending. 121 million euros deal for Benfica's Argentine midfielder Enzo Fernandez. We thought that would not happen. Just fresh from the World Cup, and they had their sight on him. It took a total expenditure for the top flight club to get the signing, a record-breaking signing for Enzo Fernandez. What do you make of the money spent by Chelsea on the Argentine?
Well, the market is inflated at the moment. We've seen how, lots of clubs, even the smaller teams, quote and unquote, are spending big for players. For Enzo Fernandez, one thing that worked for him this transfer window is the fact that not only did he win the World Cup, he was instrumental in that team. He was one of the key players in the defensive midfield for Argentina. Also, he has Champions League experience with Benfica. So these are one of the things that ensure that also he has age on the side. He's below 25. That's a good one for a young player. And one thing that's working for Chelsea in this window is the fact that Chelsea is not paying this money at once. They're going to spread this money all through
in bits.
And that is interesting to know. Chelsea signed Modric and had the same plan for the payment of Modric. So I think Chelsea is doing something that, a lot of clubs would have to understand.
Favour, what is this thing with Benfica? Whenever they want to let go of their player, they get these players at a very small amount, a little amount, or let's say minute amount. But when they want to sell them, they double, triple the price, even temple the price, if I can say that. And that happened with Nunes, Felix, and now we've seen Enzo.
Like Benfica in Portugal is what we have in the German Bundesliga with Borussia Dortmund. It's also what we have in England with the likes of Leicester and Brighton and Hove Albion. I think these clubs know that we might not really have the much money to sign, but we would try to look for players in obscure leagues, ensure that they have exposure, and when the big guys come in the Premier League, we decide to sell for a bigger amount.
All right.
It's business for them. I don't think they want to hold on to after all, the money would do a lot for the club and also help them, get smaller players and sell. It's business, I think.
Okay,
and that's what
just because of time, I need to rush this right now. We've seen switches from players from Arsenal. They go to Chelsea. From Chelsea, they get to Arsenal. We've seen a number of them. Aubameyang, William. We've got Jorginho now, and I'm not forgetting a number. Giroud. but this has been the norm. You move from Chelsea down to Arsenal. There's been a little bit of exchange there. This it's a norm with these two clubs. We don't know what's the undertone here or why we've gotten these switches all the time. But looking at what Chelsea has got right now, do you think it is high time for the Chelsea board, to put an ultimatum to Graham Potter? He complained that the first team, he has got a lot of injuries in the first team, and now they've given him players that he wants, players that can execute the game and maybe give them title hopes. Do you think there's a time to put an eye on Graham Potter?
Well, for me, I would not say it's the time because we have just less than 4 or 5 months to the end of the season. It will be too early to put that benchmark for him. Maybe the beginning of next season, if you tell him, if you don't do this, I'm going to kick you out of the club. Don't also forget, Graham Potter was not directly involved in these transfers, unlike what we have in the case of Edu and Mikel Arteta, whereby there is a telepathic understanding between these two persons. For Chelsea, it is Graham Potter, hey, take the player, I want you to use this player, and buy it for a high price, not asking the coach if this is the player you want in your team. So it's going to take time. It's not going to be rocket science. Yes, there are good players bought, but I think it will be too unfair for the owner of Chelsea to place that benchmark in January or in February, knowing fully where the league will end. So I think maybe for next season, they can now tell the manager, you don't have any excuse not to give us a trophy next season.
All right, Favour. Okay, time not up, friend. We have to go right now. Thank you so much, Favour. It's interesting talking to you. I really want to continue this conversation, but we do not have the time. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.